179 million ounces is equal to 11,187,500 pounds of food being thrown away while our kids go hungry. Yep. So, what are we talking about today? Well, everybody seems to be upset because Donald Trump, they say, is ending SNAP benefits for Americans, and they're blaming hunger and childhood, lack of food, and food poverty on Donald Trump. Well, I'm going to show you guys how to put two middle fingers up to Donald Trump, how to solve this problem, how to end the suffering of your dogs, all in one. You can hate Trump all you want, but running around hating things is not going to solve your problem. So I'm going to show you a cool way that you can do it. Yep. So first, we got to look at some numbers. In the USA, we have 89.7 million pet dogs. That's a lot of mouth to feed. That's a lot of creatures getting free rent, free electricity, free food, free government benefits, and not giving one dime back. Dogs make up nothing of the tax base. They're just freeloaders. So, the number, though, 89.7 million, that sounds like a lot, but there's probably about 20 to 25% more dogs in that. So keep in mind, this problem that I'm telling you is probably a lot worse than we know. For example, there are many dogs, such as these 44 poodles right here in Oregon, that don't get tallied into those numbers. They don't go onto the census because people are not going to admit that they have 44 poodles right here in a puppy mill. This is over in Oregon, where a lot of people are also upset about these food stamps ending. Yet our government and our law enforcement people are running around busting people for raising dogs. All that money that goes into busting people for raising dogs. And Oregonians are a big part of this problem because they create the market. They create the market for this lady right here. Let's just have a look at it. Show you guys some of the pictures here. These are the dogs that live in this woman's house. All this money going to these dogs while people are worried about food stamps. And then guess what? These dogs end up living in suffering conditions. And then they end up having to get collected by law enforcement to go into an overcrowded shelter anyways. So keep that in mind. Remember, I mentioned you can also end dog suffering by taking these steps that I'm going to mention today. So we have almost 90 billion dogs times this much right here. Americans are projected to spend 67.8 billion on dog food in 2025. We spent something like that last year, but we spend more and more money on dogs every year. More households filled with dogs, dogs that never pay a tax to go back into the food stamp benefits. And so maybe there's somebody out there that could spare a meal. Maybe it's one of these dogs. Yeah. And I know people are going to say, well, my dog will never know what it's like to be hungry. I take better care of my dog than myself. That's actually a lie that we tell ourselves because we're addicted to dogs. And I'll prove that here in a couple slides. So, pet obesity is worsening in America. So remember, I said, spare a meal, right? Well, these freaking overweight dogs that have all types of problems from being overweight. How about you quit feeding them so much and give some of that time and money to one of your fellow humans? And then you won't need Donald Trump's food stamps, will you? No, you won't. So that's the double finger up to Donald Trump that you can do. Stop worshiping dogs, and you're going to help yourself. You're going to help your fellow Americans, and you're going to help the dogs. I mean, just crack open a book. Crack open the internet. The internet is a digital book, right? As you can see, there are many health risks for pets, including diabetes, heart disease, and joint problems. So while you're sitting there overfeeding your dogs, owning more dogs than you need, pushing dogs on other people, telling people that dogs are more important than humans. You are the cause of dog obesity. Dog culture itself causes dog obesity. And what did I say earlier? Can these dogs spare a meal? Oh, hell yeah, they can. They can spare a lot of meals. So, speaking of sparing a meal, have a look at this. Many dogs waste food, with surveys showing that over half of dog owners throw away uneaten food daily. Yeah. And what does that mean? That means they're spending more money on dog food, and they're wasting dog food. It's a double punch. They could spend less money, waste less food, and then they would have more money for themselves. Many of these people that are receiving food stamps that are upset at Donald Trump, they have 4 or 5 dogs right there in their little apartment. They could just stop wasting dog food and start using that for themselves and their children and their mothers and husbands and wives. Here are two more sources. This source and this source. Basically the same thing. People overfeed their dogs, which leads to thrown away uneaten food daily, leading to significant annual waste. In fact, there's a bunch of Environmental Protection Agency and other environmental agency articles about this. All this food being thrown away because people just want to feel like they're taking care of their dog. So they give the dog more food, and it just creates a bunch of obese dogs and a bunch of waste. This is the state of a large portion of dogs in America. Obese, more and more meals, more and more meals. Yeah. Let's go to our calculator for a moment. So here's our calculator. Let's open it up. So as you can see up top, we have 44.85. So the 44.85 is half of the total dog ownership in America. 44.85 billion, which is half of about 90 billion dogs. So I times that by 4. And so 4 ounces is what I'm thinking. If it's 4 ounces of food being thrown away, then that equals 179.4 ounces of food being thrown away for dogs. Just thrown in the garbage. So that's the number we have. That's the ounces. You can see, let me show you. Here's where I got all my numbers. The 89.7 right here, I divided that by 2 because they say that at least half of dog owners admit to wasting significant food, and that's where I got these numbers. So now let's take that 179.4 million ounces and see how many pounds of food we're just throwing in the garbage for the sake of dog ownership. So we're back to our opening slide. 179 million ounces is equal to 11,875,500 pounds. That's a lot of food getting tossed into the garbage, polluting the earth, not being eaten by dogs that are already overeating anyways. So if you want a solution to hunger, you want to throw a finger up to Donald Trump, you want to quit being dependent on his food stamps, there you go. Stop overfeeding your dogs. Stop worshiping dogs so much, and start putting some of these 11 million pounds of food back to humans. I mean, hey, humans are the ones that take care of dogs anyways, right? So even if you're a dog lover, my point 100% applies to you too. Let's just go to YouTube to have a look at the point. As you can see, we're looking up feeding stray dogs meat. So this is a common thing. This guy here, he's feeding a dog a dollar steak versus a $10,000 steak. So he's feeding his dog steak while kids go hungry. This person is feeding stray dogs bread. This person is feeding stray dogs a sheet pan roast, with chicken and pork and everything else. This dog here gets himself a whole chicken, a whole cooked chicken. Yep. And people think that they're heroes for doing this. But then these stray dogs go back into the wild and they breed more dogs, which means more suffering. all for the sake of you to get a little dopamine virtue signaling hit. Look at me, I'm so good, I gave a chicken to a stray dog. Yeah, then the stray dog runs over and eats somebody's freaking free range chickens or causes some other problem, breeds, gets into somebody's backyard, gets somebody's dog pregnant, making dog suffering go on and on and on. But you gave a dog a chicken and you got yourself, 1 million views or whatever on YouTube, like all these things get. Food for homeless dogs. What an act of kindness. Yep. Then those dogs go and breed and create more homeless dogs that need more food. Meanwhile, humans go hungrier and hungrier. Yep. So there you go. You can end suffering and stop giving all this food to these dogs because it's just creating a never-ending cycle for you to keep getting dopamine, like all these people get dopamine and views. Look at me, I found some stray dogs and gave them a bone. Now give me a bunch of likes. These videos will get like 1 million likes, 1 million views. Meanwhile, a hungry kid sitting at home doesn't get a like and doesn't get a view. Yeah. Pretty freaking sick dog worship that we live in, people. And I'm going to remind my viewers, dog overpopulation and hoarding are significant problems in the USA. So my point about ending suffering is so valid, and if you're ignoring it and getting upset at me with me because you think I'm a dog hater, well, you're the dog hater because this dog worship is what leads to dog hoarding. Yeah, you want to make dogs have better lives? You have to start with making humans have better lives. Simple point, people. Humans need to have a better life. If you're so concerned about dogs, you need to start looking at the caretakers of dogs first, which is humans. That is such a beautiful point that none of these dog worshippers understand. And last but not least, I honestly don't have a lot of hope for these dog worshippers because they are so addicted to having dogs. And so many studies and so many pet owners will admit, but they want to take better care of their dogs than themselves. So if they're taking better care of the dogs than themselves, of course they're going to take better care of their dogs than other people. So if you tell a dog owner with one of these obese dogs that they should put aside some of that money and donate it to hungry kids, the first thing they're going to say is going to be angry vitriol. You're going to be a risk to their dopamine source, their dog, and they're not going to do it. Even if their dog is obese, they're not going to give up some food for a hungry kid. So there you guys go. You can throw a middle finger up to Donald Trump. You can remove yourself from needing all of his food stamps by getting together and stop worshiping dogs and start putting humans back as a top priority over these useless, freeloading dogs that take away food, fill our planet with waste, and trick us into deprioritizing our own humans. See you guys later.